Hi and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can set up a web server on a VPS, and I will be using Vultr as my VPS of choice. And once you set up the web server, I'm also going to show you how you can install a free control panel, and I'm going to use VestaCP. And once we set up the control panel, you're going to see how you can install multiple PHP-based websites. So the goal of this course is to show you how you can run multiple PHP-based websites, and I will be using Vesta control panel on centOS 7 on Vultr VPS. So that will be my setup for this. So if you want to follow along with me, make sure you set up an account on Vultr, and I'm going to show you how to do that in upcoming videos. Hi and welcome back. In this video, let's see what the setup is going to be like, and let's also see what to expect throughout the course. So the first thing is, as I said, we're going to use Vultr as the VPS of choice. So you're going to need to create an account on vultr.com if you want to follow along with me. And then as for the OS, the operating system, we're going to use centOS, and I'm going to use centOS 7. So the current version of centOS as of the recording is centOS 7.5. And we're going to install centOS 7. And after installing centOS 7, that's when we're going to install VestaCP. And VestaCP is a free control panel. And if you see here, these are the supported operating systems that you can use with Vesta. Of course, you're going to use centOS 7.5. I'm going to do all the setup on Windows, and therefore I'm going to be using Putty. And Putty is a nice software that allows you to do various Linux commands. That's what I'm going to use to set up SSH and other various things, and you're going to see how I do that. So at some point I may also decide to install Linux, and after installing Linux I will do a step-by-step guide on how you can set up your server if you're on Linux or if you're on Mac. So if you're using a Mac and Linux, the setup should be the same, because you'll just need to open up terminal, and after opening up terminal you can set up your server using that. However, for Windows, normally the process is a little bit more complicated than for people using Mac and Linux. That's why I will show you how to do the same thing on Putty. And then as for SSL, we're going to use Let's Encrypt. And the good thing about Vesta control panel is that it has this built in. So once you set up your domain, once you set up your site, you can just add SSL using the Vesta control dashboard. And then after we finish up with all this Vesta control, centOS and all the setup, we're going to install WordPress. And I'm going to use WordPress as the example. However, you can use any PHP-based framework, whether you want to use Drupal, Magento. It doesn't really matter, because as long as you have Vesta control set up, you can run any PHP-based framework or PHP-based application. And the most important thing, I will not be using Apache. I'm not a huge fan of Apache. We'll be using Nginx. So if you come over here on Vesta control panel and you go to install, you'll see that you can install Vesta control panel using Apache and Nginx. But I'm not going to do that, because when you install Apache and Nginx, the amount of resources required is much more than when you're using Nginx. So if you come here, you'll see that you can install Vesta control panel with Nginx and Apache. But I will be using Nginx and PHP FPM because it's a less resource intensive setup. Okay, so when we get to this part, we'll talk more about it. So that's just a rundown of what you should expect. So we're going to use Vultr, and we're going to use centOS 7, we're going to use Vesta control panel, and after that we're going to install WordPress. And I'm also going to show you how you can set up multiple websites and even subdomains. And after that, I'm also going to do a quick overview how you can use Cloudflare. If you want to use Cloudflare for your DNS, I'm going to show you how you can do that for your other domains. And all this during the server setup, I'm going to use this post, and this post is available on bizanosa.com. So if you go to bizanosa.com and you search for Vultr tutorial, you're going to see this, and you can use this to follow along. I'm also going to convert it to a PDF, and then I'll share the link with you, and you can download the PDF and follow along with me. This is if you are on Windows and you want to use Windows. If you're running Windows and you want to use your Windows computer during the setup. All right. So that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, let's see how you can set up your account, and after that, we'll see how you can deploy your first server on Vultr. So I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In this video, let's see how you can set up your account on Vultr. So just note that all the steps here, you can follow along with this post. So if you go to bizanosa.com/VSS, that is Vultr server setup, you're going to end up on this page, and you can download this as a PDF. So if you click here, it will bring you to Dropbox, and you can download this PDF. Just click there to download. So if you want to follow along in this initial part about server setup, you can download this as a PDF, or you can just do it online. You can just follow along with me on this post online. That is bizanosa.com/VSS. This is for you if you're using Windows. If you're using a Windows computer to set up your server. Even if you're not using Windows, if you scroll down here, you can follow along. You'll just keep the sections that are specific for Windows, and you'll see them when you get to those parts. Let's create an account on Vultr, and you'll just go to vultr.com, and then just on the home page, you can put your email address and then the password. The password needs to have 10 characters. There's got to be a capital and a number. So just make sure you follow the rules about setting the password. 10 characters, caps, a number, and then you can create your account. And before you can set up a server, before you can deploy your first server, you're going to need to set up a payment method. So you can use your credit card, or you can use PayPal. So these are the supported payment alternatives that you can use. So just use any one of these. You'll find that depending on where you are, PayPal is not going to work for you. So you can use your credit card or even your debit card. Either is going to work. So as soon as you do that, you set up the card, and then you can deposit a small amount like $10. You can add $10, $25, depending on what you want to start with, and then agree to the terms, and then click there to link the card. So it's going to charge this amount just to confirm that the card is working, and then after that you can start deploying your server. So you can see for this one, my card is not set up, but I'm going to go to a different account where we can start working with the servers by deploying our first server. So ensure you link a payment method like a card or PayPal. And then after that, we're going to set up the server. So if your card has been linked, then you'll be able to create your first server. You'll just come here and deploy the first server, and we're going to see how to do that in an instant after I do a brief dashboard overview of this Vultr dashboard. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video. So in this video, the takeaway is that you can follow along with me using this post. If you go to bizanosa.com/VSS, you can download the PDF, or you can use this post, and you can set up your vultr.com account if you want to follow along with me. And then you must link your credit card if you want to deploy your first server. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Just send your message using the Q&A section, and I will reply to you as soon as I see the message. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Hi and welcome back. In this video, let's do a brief overview of the Vultr dashboard. So let's do a brief overview of the dashboard. And if you come here, you're going to see that there are different links and tabs here for you. And we are only going to look at the ones which are of interest to you as of now. So the first thing is this button. This is used for deploying a new server. So if you deploy a new server, your servers will be listed here. So any instance that you create will be listed here. So as you can see, at the moment, I don't have any servers, but if I had any, you'll see them listed here. And then another important one is snapshots. Snapshots are a way for you to take just a snapshot of the server, of the instance, and it's going to copy everything in the server. And you can deploy it in future. So right now, I don't have any snapshots, but if you have instances, you have servers that you've deployed, you can create snapshots and then you can redeploy those snapshots. So you cannot redeploy a snapshot in a plan which is lower. For example, if we come here to the Vultr pricing, if you go to the Vultr pricing, you're going to see that we have 20 GB SSD and we have 25 GB, 40 GB, and so much more. So if you create a snapshot for a 25 GB SSD, you cannot redeploy it in a 20 GB SSD. You have to redeploy the server on a 25 GB SSD or higher. So you cannot go lower, but you can go higher. So you're going to see how to create, and also I'm going to show you how you can create the snapshot and also how you can redeploy the snapshot. And then ISO, maybe you have an operating system that you want to use and it is not available on Vultr. So you can create an ISO CD and then you can deploy that from the ISO. And then if you have startup scripts, you can use those scripts, you can add them here. Then SSH keys, this is for you. If you're on Linux or Mac and you want to add your SSH keys, you can add them here and it will be added for you and it will be easier to work with if you're on Linux or Windows, or on Linux or Mac. For Windows, we are going to use Putty to set up our SSH keys. And then DNS, this is also another important one, so I'll just click on it. If you want to use Vultr for your DNS, you can just come in here and add your domain, and then you'll be able to use these name servers, NS1 and NS2 for Vultr. And you can also set up backups, auto backups. If you want your system to be automatically backed up, then you can back up your server automatically for a monthly cost. And you can choose this when you're deploying your server, and you're going to see that option. Then you can also add a block storage to your VPS. If you have an instance and you want to add more space, you can use the block storage. You can find out the prices for block storages here. If you come here, you're going to see the pricing for the sizes that you want. For example, you can see 10 GB is $1 per month. So that's that. I don't think there's anything else here that is of interest to us at the moment. So billing, you already saw what billing is. You can set up your card, you can pay in advance, you can just add credit to your account so that even if at the end of the month you get your invoice, it will get deducted from the amount that you have on your account. And then support, if you have any issues, you can contact Vultr support. Like one of the things you're going to have to contact them for is if you need SMTP to be opened for you. SMTP enables you to send and receive emails. So if you want that to be opened for you, you're going to have to contact support. And then if you want to be an affiliate, then you can come in here and take your link and share Vultr to other people. And if they sign up, you get $10. And then if you want to set up APIs, you want to use an API for something, then you'll just come here under account and you can set up your APIs. You can just click here to enable API. And if you want to resell Vultr on WHMCS, maybe you're starting a web hosting business, you can resell Vultr services And you can do that using the WHMCS plugin. Just click here to download it, and you can also read more about the documentation for it. Of course, we're not going to look at all that in this course. And then users, if you want to add users, just click here, add a new user to your account. Notifications, you want to know when there will be maintenances, when there will be any kind of maintenance on the server, then you can turn this on. If you want to stop the usage of bandwidth, you'll just click here, and this will alert you that this has taken effect. Okay, when bandwidth is no longer being used, you'll get an alert. At what point do you want to be told that the bandwidth has been cut off, it's no longer being used? So you can see for this is 95%. That means that if you turn this on, when your bandwidth usage reaches 95% within the month, then it will be turned off and bandwidth will not be accessible. That means that if your site is online, it will probably most definitely go offline, and you'll receive a notification for that. So you should just leave this offline, so that even if the bandwidth goes beyond what you're given under pricing, like for this, you can see the bandwidth is 0.5 TB. So that's 500 GB. So if it goes past 500 GB, then the website will continue being on, but you may incur additional charges on top of this, on top of what is being charged for that month. So you should just leave this off. Right, so that's pretty much it for this. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our first server. We're going to deploy the first server, and of course you're going to need a domain for that. So if you don't have a domain, make sure you have a domain name ready, because you're going to need that to set up your server. We're going to deploy our server on a subdomain. Okay, so I will see you then. Just be ready with your domain. I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. So let's continue on, and in this video I just want to talk about Putty and Windows. I'm going to do the tutorial on a Windows PC, okay, because I don't have a Macintosh and I don't have a Linux based PC. But at some point later on, once I'm done with the course, I'm going to install VMware that is going to enable me to run Linux or Mac on a virtual environment on my Windows PC. So that's something that I plan on doing later on in the course, but I want to finish up everything before I do that. So we are going to need Putty. If you're on Windows, you're going to need Putty. And if you scroll down here, you're going to find the link for downloading Putty. So if you come down here, you're going to see we have Putty and Puttygen. These are what you're going to need. And you can just download Putty. If you click this link, Putty is free to download. You'll come here and you can download, you can install the one for your PC. So if you're on a 32-bit, you can download this. If you're on a 64-bit, you can download this. Okay, so this is going to come with a bunch of other tools, and we're only going to use Putty and Puttygen. Okay, or you can also download the specific tools that we're going to use, which is Putty and Puttygen. Where is Puttygen and Puttygen? Okay, so if you don't want to install all the others, you can just choose to install those two. If you're not on Windows, if you are on Linux or you are on Mac, what you're going to do is you can just follow along with this, okay? But if you read the section about Windows, you can skip it, or you can come down here where it says initial server setup. If you click on this link, Vultr guide, it will take you to the original guide of the Vultr CentOS 7 setup. If you follow this guide on a Mac or on Linux, everything is going to work well for you. However, if you're on Windows, this is not going to work, because Windows does not have the capability to create the SSH keys for you like on Mac or Linux. If you follow this, you can come back, and after that you will find the section where I will be installing our control panel, which is Vesta. So once you install it, just come back and follow along. What you need to do is you need to install Putty, and in the next video when we get started, we're going to come here and I'm going to deploy my web server. So for you to install a web server, you need a domain. Make sure you have a domain ready. It doesn't matter where you buy the domain, just make sure you have your domain ready, because you're going to use a subdomain of that domain to set up our server. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we are going to deploy our server. Make sure you have your domain ready, because you're going to install the server on a subdomain, using a subdomain as our root. So I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. So in this video, we are going to deploy our first server. For us to install Vultr CP, which will be our control panel, we are going to need to install it on a subdomain. Therefore, I need a domain, and in this course throughout, I'm going to use this domain for all my demos. If I'm doing any demonstrations, I'm going to do it here. If I'm installing WordPress, I'm going to do it here. If I'm creating subdomains, I'm going to do it here. And currently, this domain redirects to bizanosa.com. Okay, so it will redirect to bizanosa.com, and I'm going to show you how you can do all this once you've set up your server and you've installed Vultr CP and you even have a running website. So right now I'm using Cloudflare. This domain is using Cloudflare as the DNS provider. So I'm going to delete it from Cloudflare because I want to use it on the other, because I want to use it as my main domain here, and we can set up or deploy our first server. So I'm just going to come here to plus. You see this plus? If I click on it, I will be able to deploy my server. And you can choose the location for where you want your server to be. So if you're in Europe, you can choose a location which is closest to you. The idea is that you choose the place which is closest to your visitors. That will make sure that your site is much faster. If the majority of your visitors are in Europe, then you're going to need to find the server which is closest, okay? And if yours is in America, you take the server which is closest. If you're in Asia, you choose one which is closest. For me, I'm going to choose New Jersey. And if I take this and I just scroll down, you can see you can choose the types of servers. So the first step is you choose the location of your server. And then the second step, you choose the operating system that you want to run. So you can see you have 64 and 34-bit OSs. So you can choose all of them. Windows, all of them are here. Debian. So most people usually prefer to use Debian, CentOS, or Ubuntu, but it entirely depends on what you're trying to run. For us, we're going to install CentOS 7. And we're going to install it on a 64-bit operating system. And the reason why you should at least do 64-bit is because if you're doing this for your website, you don't know how big your website will grow. And if it grows bigger, you may decide that you want more memory. And if you want more memory with a 64-bit system, you are not limited with memory as much as 32-bit. With a 32-bit system, you will max out at 4 GB memory. So a RAM of 8 GB, 6 GB will not be useful to you on a 32-bit system. So you can start with the 64-bit and you will grow in future. Even if you start with small memory, maybe in future your website is going to grow and you may need to buy more memory. And if you upgrade to higher memory with a 64-bit system, you are not limited. Okay? So for us, we're going to choose CentOS, and you choose the server size. So all of these are not available in all locations, okay? So there are certain locations when you choose here, you're not going to get this and this. Yeah, so you find the location that's got them. If these are the ones that you want, you make sure that you find the location that has this for you. So you can see this one, even though it's $250 a month, it only has the IPv6 addresses. It doesn't have IPv4, okay? And IPv4 is much easier to use, and most places you're going to find that IPv4 is supported by default. So IPv6 is the future, and someday maybe it will be the most prominently used, but as at now IPv4 is also still being used actively. With that in mind, I'm going to choose this one, and I'm going to choose this one because it has IPv4 and it also has IPv6. Okay, so of course, if you want to run your website, you can just try with this and test it out and see how your website is performing. If your website is not performing that well, you can upgrade. Okay, just remember that once you go higher, you cannot go lower. Okay, so it's best to start low and then you go higher. And additional features, of course, enable IPv6 and then auto backups. You can see this is that per month, and you can enable DDoS protection. That per month, enable private networking. If you want to use this in-house, maybe you don't want it to be accessed by the public, you can enable private networking. Then you can enable block storage compatibility. Of course, this is something that you may want. Maybe in future you want to add memory, you want to add storage space. If you look at the Vultr pricing, there is block storage, and you can see the prices for that. And maybe in future you want to add additional storage, so you can enable this to make sure that it is compatible with that storage. And you can see currently is supported in the New York, New Jersey location, and that's the one that I've chosen. And then if you have startup scripts, you can add them. These are things that you want to run when setting up the server. I don't have anything to add here. SSH keys, I'm on Windows. I don't have anything to add here. I won't be able to add any SSH keys even if I wanted to with Windows. And the next part, this is also very important, server host name. Now the host name is what your web server will be referred to everywhere. With every system, every application that you install on your server, they will always refer to the server host name. And this is also where we are going to install Vesta control panel. So for me, of course, I already have that domain. Let me paste in the domain, but you need to put it as a subdomain. So I can put something like panel.mycoupons.com. You can call it whatever you want, panel 80, panel 10, just call it anything that you can remember. So for me, I'm going to call mine panel 2018 mycoupons.com. So panel 2018 mycoupons.com. Then I'm going to copy that, and of course it's already been added here, so that's okay. So I can just leave the label to be the same as the host name. So make sure the host name is okay and correct and is an actual subdomain. So you're going to see this is going to get set up by Vesta. Okay, so once you do all this, you're ready to deploy your server. So I'll just click on deploy now to deploy the web server. And then after that, it's going to take some time to set it up, just maybe a few minutes. And you can see the server is currently being set up. This tells us that it's running CentOS. And as soon as it is ready, you're going to see we are going to get a password and we're going to get an IP address. So we have an IP, and the next thing, we'll wait for the password. So this IP is what we're going to use to set up our DNSs. This IP is what you're going to use to set up different things. So of course, I'm going to use the same server for my email, database, and the web. So I'm going to use everything on this one server, okay? And that is just for ease of setup. However, you can use different servers for different functions. For example, you can have a database server, you can have an email server, but for email, you can use third-party solutions like Zoho. If you want that, you can use Zoho, or you can use Amazon SES. You can use that for email as well, and it's very, very, very cheap, the one for Amazon. If you want to use that for your emails, then that's something you can do, but I'm not going to look at that in this course at this particular point. Maybe in future when I'm updating the course, I will add more things like that. But for now, I just want a quick and easy setup for you if you want to get online with Vesta CP and Vultr. So if I come here, I can click on manage. Currently, our username is root and that is our password. If you click this, you can copy it. If you show password, you can also see the password. But what we're going to do is the initial setup. If you come here, initial server setup. Now the initial server setup includes things like you're going to remove the root user. You're going to create a new user. We're going to add SSH so that we can log in using SSH, which is more secure, and we're not going to need a password for SSH. It's just a public key and a private key. That's what we're going to use. We're going to disable the root user. So once we do all this, that will mark the end of the section about setting up the web server. And then after that, we're going to create a snapshot of this server. And then once we create the snapshot of the server, we are going to install Vesta CP, which will be a very quick process. Once we install Vesta CP, we can begin adding our websites. And I'm going to add a WordPress website. Then I'm going to add subdomains. I'm going to show you how you can add DNSs and things like that. So for now, that will mark the end of this video. But in the next video, we're going to continue on with setting up our web server. And let's see, the first thing we're going to do here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enable SSH. Okay, so before we get to that video, you need to download and install Putty. Okay, so if you come up here, you'll see that we have Putty. Download it from here. And I told you the things that you need to download in the last video. So once you download it, install it. And I will see you in that next video when we start using Putty. So if you want to get to this page, you can download this thing as a PDF. It's a post on my site and you can just download it as a PDF. If you go to bizanosa.com/VSS, that is bizanosa.com/VSS. VSS is for Vultr Server Setup. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In the last video, we deployed this server. In this video, let's log into the server and we continue setting up this web server. By now, I'm sure you already have, if you're on Windows like me, you already have Putty and Puttygen installed. Okay, just click this link, install Putty and Puttygen. Open Putty and Puttygen. We're going to use Putty to log into our server, and Puttygen, we're going to use it just once to generate our SSH keys. So if you're on Windows like me, make sure you do that. I'm on Windows 8.1. I already have Putty and Puttygen installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into my server using Putty. So I have it down here. This is Putty. This is Putty. If you don't have it opened yet on Windows, you can just do Windows key and W. And then you can search for any application. So if I search, I can search for Putty. And when I do that, you see it brings me this and I can open Putty. So this is Putty. And you can see I already have some things here, which I did in the past. But for now, we want to log into this server. So if I click here, I will need my IP, so I'll just click to copy, and your username is root and your password is that. You can just copy it, and when we need them, we'll come back to them. So I'll come here and I will paste my IP. I'll paste the IP in there, and this has to be selected as SSH. And then, so that I can save time in future, I'll give it a name. Let me call it something like VSS, Vultr Server Setup. And then I can save. So if I save it, it will allow me to just come in next time without having to type in the IP address. So if I just click on it, I can load it. So if I load it, I can look at the details of it. And if I want to open it, I can just either double click on it or click on open. In this video, let's log into our server and start setting things up. So just scroll down up to this part and you'll see these links. You can use this to install Putty. Okay, so once you've already installed Putty on your computer, I'm on Windows 8.1. So I'm just going to use the Windows command key and W, and that will allow me to search, and I can search for Putty. So we are going to use Putty for now, and we'll also use Puttygen sometime later. So if I open Putty, you can see these are some that I've set up in the past. And in the last video, this is the one for our current server that we set up. So I can load this, and if I just click here on open, it's going to open. And when you open it for the first time, it's going to ask you if the server key is correct, just for you to make sure. But most of the times this is not something you should worry about. So you can just click on yes, and you'll continue to log in with the details that have been provided here. So if I click on this, I can use these details to log in. I'm going to need my root username, and I'm going to need the password. So I'll just click here to copy the password, and if I come back, I can log in as root. If that happens, you can just log in again. So we can restart the session. I will log in as root and then put the password. So let me copy the password again. Okay, the first time I think I'm going to have to type it. So let me just come here. Okay, let me try once again. Copy. Okay, so I've tried too many times. Let me just restart the session. And then I will log in as root. And I think the first time I have to type in the password. So the password is 8. Okay, there we go. So the first time I needed to type it in, and after typing it in, you can see that I'm now logged in, and you can see there were 7 failed logins. These are all from the times when I was trying to paste in. So if you want to paste anything into Putty, you can just right click and it will paste something in Putty. If you want to copy, you can just select an item, and when you left click, it will copy the item for you. So like, let's say I try to select this and then I left click. Then let me press enter and then right click. If I right click, you can see that it will paste in all the items that have copied from up there. So I will clear the screen. So just by typing clear, that will clear the screen for us. So that's the first part. We have logged in successfully. So use the root password and the password that you're given to log in. And if I come back here, so before I end the video, let's change the password. So let's change the password for our server, even though it's not going to matter because at some point I'm going to use SSH for logging in. Okay, so if you want to change the password, just type in passwd passwd and then enter. And you can see it's telling you you're changing the password for root. So you'll type in the new password. And for me, I want to use any password here. So let's say I use any password that is less than 8 characters. It's going to tell you that's a bad password, so you need to have at least 8 characters. Okay. Retype your password. Okay, so that's it for this video. In this video, you've seen how you can log in and also how you can change the root password. So coming up next, we're going to start creating a new user. And once we create a new user, we're going to add SSH and so much more in upcoming videos. See you in the next videos. Hi and welcome back. In the last video, you logged into your server and I also showed you how you can change the password for your root user. In this video, let's create a new user. Okay, so let me come back here. So if you're following along with this is where we are. You can create a user and we're going to create a user and that will be the name of the user. You can give it any name. This is just like John Doe. So that's a sample name. And then we're going to create a password for this user. And then we're going to give this user root privileges. We're going to add this user to the will group so that this user that we create will have root privileges. And then at some point, we're going to disable the root user so that this is the only user that we're going to have on our server. And that is for security reasons. So if I come back here, let me just copy this, add user, copy. And if I come back here, let me just clear the screen. And to clear the screen, you just type in clear, enter. Okay, so I need to restart this session and I will log in as. Then I can clear the screen. Then let's paste in add user. And as I said, if you want to paste anything into Putty, just right click. So add user and let's create a new user. Let's just call him new user. Okay, so the new user is created. So let's give the new user a password. So as I said, if you want to copy anything on Putty, just select it and then left click. So we want to create a password for the new user. Passwd, and then I will right click to paste in this new user and then just press enter. And password for the new user, give 8 characters, something that you'll remember. So retype the password and then press enter and that's it. And then finally, the next thing that I want us to do before I end the video, let's give this user root privileges. And I'm just going to copy this, copy, and I will put that here. So right click and we want to change this to the new user. So here, just put the user that you created. If you created a new user, put that user here. Make sure it's something that you can remember and something that is also secure, all right? Something that is not as easy as root. So once you do that, just press enter. And there we go. Now we have 2 users. We have the new user and we have the root user. So I can also try to log in using this other user. So before I end the video, let me try to log in using this new user. So I've pinned my Putty down here. Okay. So, and this is the one that I saved. This is the session that I saved for this. So if I try to log in, I can log in using a different user. So let me just increase the font for this once again. If I increase the font by going into change settings, appearance, and then font, where is it? Font, let's make it 18. Okay, apply, and then we can log in as new user. And then the password that you created for your user, use that to log in. There we go. So we have two users. We have root and we have this other one. So after this, we are going to go into the next steps. And so if you're following along with me and you're not on Windows, you'll see that at this point where we'll be adding SSH keys, this will not work for you if you're on Windows. But luckily we have Putty and Puttygen. So I'm going to use Puttygen to generate the SSH keys. Then we're going to add those SSH keys on our server. All right. If you're on a Mac or Linux, then so skip it all the way to here and continue on with the next steps, or you can just click here and you can watch the original tutorial on how to set it up on centOS, and this will also help you. It doesn't have the Windows part, so if you follow along with this all through, then you'll be safe. I will see you in the next video when we start working with SSH, and we're going to create an SSH key and we're going to add it on the server, and that will be our way of logging in. So from now on, once we are done with that bit, we will not be able to log in using the password. We're going to disable logging in via password, and you'll only be able to log in via SSH. So SSH has a private and a public key. The public key is on the server. The private key, that's the one that you have. So for you to log in, you must have the private key. Okay, so you can log in on any computer using the private key. So you can keep it safely and log in anywhere as long as you have access to your server. So I will see you in the next video. Okay, so in the last video, we did create a new user for our server. And in this video, let's set up SSH. Since I'm on Windows, I'm going to open up Puttygen, and we're going to use that to generate our SSH keys. So that's very important. If you don't have Puttygen and you're on Windows, make sure you install Puttygen, and I showed you the links. It is somewhere on this page. On this page, you can reach this page by going to bizanosa.com/VSS. That is VSS for Vultr server setup. Okay, so Puttygen. The first thing we're going to do, we open Puttygen and we generate our keys. So open Puttygen, and since I'm on Windows, I can just do Windows key and W, and that will allow me to search, and I can do everywhere, and I can search for Putty, and you see I have Puttygen. So you can open that. So I will close this one, close that. Okay, to generate the key, just click generate and move your mouse. Just move your mouse all around. Keep moving the mouse. Keep moving the mouse so that it can finish generating the key. And there we go. You can save the key, but normally I find that if you click here to save the key, to save the public key, it comes with some other things that may confuse you. So the best thing is for you to just select everything, Control A. Okay, Control A doesn't work inside here. So you can just select from up there and then scroll all the way down and then hold down the Shift key. And then hold down the Shift key and select, and then you can copy and you put it inside of Notepad. And when you do it inside of Notepad, make sure that the format, you don't have this checked. Okay, make sure this is not checked so that it can just be a single line on your Notepad like that. Okay, and then you can save that, save as. Okay, so the public key is saved, and once again we need to save the private key, and this is the one that you're going to use for logging in. So are you sure you want to save this key without a passphrase? Make sure you put in a passphrase here. Okay, this is like a second security feature. It's like a password for it. So just make sure you add a password here that only you know, so that every time you try to log in with the with the key, it's first of all going to ask you for the passphrase. So this is just an extra security feature that you should add. Okay, so for me, let me just use password. Okay, and once I do that, I can save the private key. Go to where you want to save it, and you'll see that it is a .ppk file. So you can save it as private, and I'll just click on save, and that will save it as our private key. So that's pretty much it. So I have my private key, I have my public key, which is this, and I also have my private key. So the next step for us will be for us to come into our server and add those keys inside here. So that's the next thing that I'm going to do in the next video. So in this video, what we've done, we've just opened our Puttygen and we've generated our private and public key. There's our public key and our private key is also here. So we've saved it, and in the next video, let's see how we can add it to our server so that we can use it to log in to the server. So this is only for the Windows guys. If you're using Windows, then this is how you do it. This is how you add the SSH keys into your server. I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In the last video, I showed you how to generate the SSH keys. You saw how to generate the private and the public key. Let's continue from here, and in this video what you're going to do is you're going to create a directory, and then we're also going to add our public SSH key into our server. So you've seen me increase fonts on Putty. So if I click this, this is the one that I saved for this particular session. And if I load it, this is our IP. So if I want to make sure that every time I load this, the font is always big, I'll just click on appearance, and then I'll come here and I can change the font, and then click OK. Change the font to whatever you want to change it to, and then you'll come back into sessions and save, and that will make sure that every time you open it, the font is as big as you want it. So since I'm doing a video, I want the user experience to be good, and I want the font to be legible at all times, and that's why I'm making the font bigger. So once I do that, I can just open this and we can continue on by logging in, and I'm going to log in as a new user. So for this session, we are going to use the new user that you created, and that's what we're going to use throughout for the next upcoming videos. So I will log in as the new user that we created. If you're following along with me, make sure you log in as the new user that you created. All right, so let me log in with the new user, and the new user that I created was and then put in the password. I'm logged in as the new user, and we're going to use this to set up our SSH. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make a directory inside of the server, and then in that directory we are going to add the SSH key, and the SSH key that you're going to add will be the public SSH key. Okay, so you remember where to get your public SSH key. This is the one, you see this one here, and you also copied it and saved it on a notepad. So this is a key that we're going to copy inside of our web server. Okay, so we'll copy it when we get to that part. So the first thing is, let's make a directory, and we're going to be using sudo because we are not logged in as the root user. So sudo simply gives this user the capability to carry out commands that would otherwise be carried out by the root user. That's why we are using sudo. So sudo make directory that, and then enter, and you're going to need to input your password for this user. If you're going to, the first time you execute sudo, the sudo command, you're going to need to put in your password. So put in the password for this user. That will create the directory, and if you try to create it again, so you can just try to create it again to see the result that it's going to give you. And if you see this, it tells you that the file exists. The next step is we're going to copy we're going to copy our SSH key. We're going to open up a file inside here, and it's going to create this, and we're going to open it using nano. Now, in some tutorials, if you come across some tutorials online, some people will use Vim, and that's why you'll see VI, that is for Vim. But in this case, I'm going to be using nano because nano is very easy to use, and you're going to see it's very easy to use. It's just like a notepad on your server, and you can use that for copying and editing things. So if I come here, I can just do the same. I can just paste in that so that it can open this file, and this will allow us to edit the file. So you see it's opened a file for us, and inside of this file, we're going to paste in our public SSH keys. Okay, Control A, copy, and as I said, if you want to paste anything inside here, just right click. If you right click, it will allow you to copy. Make sure that it is copied in one line. So if you want to see that it's copied in one line, if I try to just move the cursor all the way, you'll see that it's copied in one line. You can get your public SSH keys from here. Okay, so just go all the way to the top, click on that where it starts with SSH RSA, then hold down the shift key and then select and then copy, and you can paste that inside here. And once you do that, we're going to need to save everything that is here. So first of all, we're going to exit, and to exit, you can see these helpful commands which are down here, and this will be helpful for you at some point when we get to editing various things. You're going to see that sometimes it's very important for you to know how you can go to the next page, previous page, and so much more. Once you pasted in the public key, you can just type Control X, that is this. You see this one here to exit, Control X, and then once you've done that, it's going to ask you if you want to save the changes, and if you answer with the Y is going to mean yes, no is going to be N. So we'll press Y and then enter. That will have added our SSH keys, and that's what we want. That will have added our public SSH keys. So let's go to the next step, and then we need to change the access levels for the SSH folder and SSH key file. So this is something that I had to struggle with for a minute to actually learn where the issue was, because when I tried to log in, it couldn't log in, but I realized that I needed to change the access levels. Thankfully, I was able to figure it out, and I just needed to change the access levels. That's what this does. It changes the access levels for our SSH file and the SSH directory and the SSH file, the actual file that contains our public SSH file. So first of all, do this. So let's paste in this, copy, and if I come back here, I will right click and then press enter, and then let's change the access for this one as well, copy, and right click and then enter. Is that it for the Windows section? Let's see, coming back here, then we change the ownership to your new user. So you change the ownership so that this is now owned by the new user that you've created. So for this, let me just copy this because I don't want to do a lot of typing inside of the command line. It's a very tedious process typing inside there. So I'll just bring this here, and let me change the font size for this to 20, and then I will paste it in. And now this is your new user. The new user that you created every place where there is Joe, replace it with that. And for me, the new user that I created was new user. So I'll just take this, Control C, and I will copy this, and I will paste that, paste, and I will also paste it there, and then I will copy the entire thing and bring it inside of my command line. If I just right click, it will paste it, and then I can press enter, and that will change the ownership to this new user, and that's what we want. So once you're done up to here, you can confirm login via SSH, and in the next video I'm going to show you how you can log in into your web server via SSH. So that's the only thing that's remaining about this SSH section. So our SSH has been set up, the public key has been saved in our server. So that means that the next time we want to log in, we'll need to log in with our private key. And I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video, because I don't want this video to be extremely long. Okay, so that's it for this video. And in this video, what we've done, we've just copied our public SSH key into our folder, and we've changed various permissions for the folder and for the actual file to allow us to access it, so that every time we log in, we don't get an error. We've also changed the ownership. In the next video, let's just come in and try to log in via SSH. Okay, so I will see you in that next video. Welcome back. This is where we stopped in the last video, and in the last video what we did is we added our public key inside of our centOS server. In this video what we're going to do is we're just going to try and log in. So I'm going to open a new instance, and I'm just going to run Putty. Let me load this. Load. I want to give it a new name, to VSS. And then I want to come here under SSH, and I will just click on it. So just click on it, and then click on auth, okay, authentication, and then I will browse. So this is where you need to find your private key. Okay, so where you saved it, you remember when we generated our private key, we saved the private key. This is more important. This is very important. Make sure you save it, because if you lose it, you won't be able to log into your web server. So I'll just browse and look for, okay, so this is where it is. So you can see the .ppk, that's our private key that we saved earlier. So I'll just double click on it, and I won't open yet. I'll go back. I will go back into session, and then I will click on save, and that is going to save this for me, so that I don't have to do this every time. If I don't save it, I may have to keep doing this every time, and I don't want to do that. So just make sure you save yours as well. After saving it, if I double click on it, for this you log in as the new user that you created. And then it's going to ask you for the passphrase. So you remember when I told you that once you generate your SSH keys on Putty, give a passphrase. Okay, so this is what you're being asked for. And just as soon as you do that, you'll see that you're logged in. Okay, so we are ready to go. And from now on, we can just start using our SSH key to log in. We're going to do various security measures on our server. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the Windows section. That was it, the SSH part. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to disallow root login. We're going to disable root login, and then we're going to disable password authentication. So basically, people won't be able to log in using a password. If you want to log in, you must have the private key. That will be it for the security part on this. And then we're going to configure the time zone. And then finally, we'll look at the IP tables, and we're going to set up the IP table so that we can allow some traffic for our web server. And that will be pretty much it for the section about setting up the web server. Before I install Vesta CP, I'm going to have to create a swap. Since the server that I deployed has a very low memory, I'm going to create a swap file, and a swap file is like a temporary memory. That's it for this video. In this video, what we've done is we've just seen how you can log into your VPS server using your SSH keys. That is, if you've been using Putty. Okay, that's it for this video. In the next video, let's come back and we're going to disable root login, and we're also going to disable password authentication. So I can close this and we're going to continue on with this part. That's it for this video. See you in the next one. Hello and welcome back. This is where we stopped in the last video, and in the last video you saw how you can log in via Putty using your SSH keys. So let's continue on, and in this video we're going to disable root login and we're going to disable password authentication. And then let's come here and I want to just copy this. Okay, so this, the first one is going to open up the SSHD config, and we want to open this using nano so that we can edit it. This is a file that has the configurations that we need. Since we are no longer root, we have to use every command with sudo. So the first time, for now, let's say we've copied sudo nano and we want to edit this using nano, and nano is an editor that you can use on your command line. So if I just enter, and then of course you need to input your password. Okay, so once I do that, you can see that it opens this file. So if I come back here, this file, you see this file, this is the one that has these things that we need. So we don't want to scroll through because this thing is very tedious to use, nano. Okay, you can see it is a very rudimentary tool. If you look at it, it's very rudimentary. You have to do things manually. If you want to go to the next page, you can do Control V and it's going to take you to the next page. Previous page, Control Y, it's going to take you to the previous page. Sometimes you have to like scroll through things if you don't know what you're looking for. However, since we know what we are looking for, we can find exactly what we are looking for by searching for it using Control W. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I want to copy permit root login. We need to change this to no. As of the moment, it's yes. So if I come back, I'll copy this permit root login, and we need to find that specific command and change it to yes. So I can just press Control W, and once I press Control W, I can paste it in, and you remember how to paste in things. You can paste into Putty using the right command, and once I paste that in, I can just press enter. Permit root login. Permit root login has been set to yes, and it's actually commented out, so that means that it's by default. Let's just see if there's another one that's still here. Control W once again, and then enter. Control W once again, and then enter. Okay, so you can see this is the only one that we have. So what we need to do is we need to uncomment it. The pound sign in front of it means that it's commented, and that means that root login is on by default. So what we need to do is we need to change it to no. So just use your cursor to get you to no. So just delete the yes and turn it to no. And you can see my web server is very slow, so I will create the swap file in the next video. Hopefully that's going to help me improve the performance just a little bit. And just type in no in place of the permit root login. Type in no. Now let's go back, and we also want to change password authentication to no. So copy that one as well. Come back here, Control W, enter, right click and then enter. What you need to do here, once you find the password authentication, you see the one which is down here, the password authentication, that is yes, you change this to no. So just go all the way to the part where it says yes and change that to no. Okay, so that's it. So if you want to save anything inside of Nano, just exit and then yes. So Control X to exit and then press Y on your keyboard and then enter. And that's it. So if you come back here and let's take the command and restart SSHD. So copy this, I'll paste it in there, enter, and enter the password for your user, and that's it. So let's just do an experiment. Before I end the video, let's do an experiment. Let's try to log in using our root user. So log in as root. And you can see the server refused our key. That's because we've disabled the root user. Restart the session, and this time round, let's log in as this user. So log in as that and then enter. So from now on, if you want to log into your web server, you're going to have to use your SSH keys. That's pretty much it for this part. What we've done in this video is we've removed the authentication, the password authentication, and we've also disabled root login. So you cannot log in as a root user, and that is a good security feature. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do, which I didn't do and I should have done immediately as soon as I deployed my server, the first thing I should have done was update CentOS. And I didn't do that, but now I can do it. I can even do it now, it doesn't matter. And that is the last thing I'm going to do before the video ends. To update your server, you'll just do sudo yum update. This is the amount that it will need to download. Is this okay? Yes. Enter and let it update. As soon as you do that, your web server is going to be updated and it's going to be running on the latest CentOS 7, which for me is CentOS 7.5. For me, it's CentOS 7.5. I don't know which one will be for you. If you're watching this at a later date, it's probably going to be more recent than mine, but for me right now, it's now running 7.5 and a bunch of other things have also been updated. Alright, so that's it for this video. If there are any questions, feel free to let me know, and we're going to continue on from here in the next video. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Hi and welcome back. So in this video, let us configure the time zone for the web server. So I'll just come back here and I can configure the time zone using this. So I'll just copy this, copy, and so for this you can use your own time zone. You can see this is like US Eastern. This is going to set the time for the Eastern time for the US location. You can set your time zone. You can just put the name of your continent here. Like if you're in Africa, you can just put Africa. And then you put the city. Like for me, I can put mine as Nairobi. So let me paste this in here. You can put your continent there. Maybe if you're in Australia, you can also put Australia here. And the town, maybe Canberra, wherever you are, just put that in there. So like for me, I'm in Africa, so I'm going to say Africa, and then I put Nairobi, and it's going to change the time zone for my web server to my local time zone. If you're in Russia, you can just put Russia and Moscow or wherever you are. Copy, and then I want to put that inside of my server. Also, I'm not logged in yet. Just restart the session, and then I can log in as I'll just paste that in there. And that should change my time zone. So let me just confirm. Currently, my time is about 7 a.m. And you'll see that for me, it has worked. So that's it for me. So let's say I also try and change the time zone. Let's say I change the time zone to Europe, London, copy. So you can see the time is around 7, and it's telling me the time zone is East African time. So let me put this, and then I can paste that in there, enter, and then echo date, and you can see the time zone has changed. So let me change it back to my original time zone. So on Putty, if I just press the up arrow on my keyboard, it brings the last command that was executed on Putty. There we go. And the time is back to EAT. So just do it this way and you'll get your time zone correct. Just the continent and your city. That's an easy way of getting the time. All right, so that's it for this video. In this video, we've configured the time zone for our web server. So the web server will be in tandem with you. So you can set various security measures based on the time if you so wish. Okay, so that's it for this video. In the next one, before we do IP tables, the next thing I want to do is I want to create a swap file on my server. If you come up here on this post, and this post, you can find this post on bizanosa.com/VSS. So if you come here, you're going to see I've added how to create a swap file in CentOS. So in the next video, let's create a swap file, and then after that, we're going to configure IP tables. All right. So that's pretty much it for this video. I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. So this is where we ended the last video. And in the last video, what we did is we set the time zone for our web server. And if you didn't watch that video, go back and watch it so that you can set the correct time zone for your web server. In this video, what I want to do is I want to create a swap file. A swap file is basically a memory location that will act as memory when my RAM runs out of memory. My VPS has a very low amount of memory, so I'm going to create a swap file of 2 GB, which will take 2 GB from this SSD space, and we'll use that as memory. So that's what a swap file is. So you can create a swap file or a swap disk. Since I don't have the capability to create partitions, to create a partition in my web server, I will just create a swap file. If you want to follow along with these steps, everything is here. And if you come to bizanosa.com/VSS, you're going to find this and you're going to find this. So this is the one I'm going to use in this video, how to create a swap file in CentOS 7. Just click on it and it will bring you to this post. All right. So let's just get started. And first of all, let's see if we have any swap. if we already have any swaps that have been created. I've got to log in again. So currently I don't have any swap file, and that's what we're going to do. By the end of this video, if I run this, we're going to see that we have a swap file. So you can also see the free memory that we have. So let me just copy this, and I want to see the memory that I have on my web server and the usage for that memory. And you can see we don't have a swap memory yet, but by the end of this video, we're going to have a swap. So when we run this, we are going to see that we have a swap memory that has been allocated on our web server. All right, so let's get started with the memory. So the first thing we're going to do is, okay, so this is just something that I added here. This will help you see the amount of space, the disk that you have, the free disk space that you have. So you can use that to check the amount of disk space that you have. And it's not going to help us in any way in this setup. Now let's start creating the swap file. And the first thing we're going to do is you have to create the actual swap file. So this right here, this is going to be the name of your swap file. So for me, I've called mine the swap, but you can give it any name that you want to give it. Okay. So for me, I've called mine the swap, and this is the amount of memory that it's going to have. So if you want it to be 1 GB, you can just use 1024. If you want it to be 2 GB, you can use 2048. And just in that manner, if you want it 3 GB, just 3 times 1024, and so on. Okay, but since we are on a very small VPS, I'm just going to do a max of 2048, that is 2 GB. Okay, if you have more disk space, maybe you can create more, but for me, I'm just going to do this 2 GB. So if I copy this, copy, and then I will come back here, just paste in that, and then enter. This has been created, the file has been created, and these 2 GBs have been copied. Our file, once we register it inside of FS disk, it's going to register this as a memory. You're going to see how to do that in the next upcoming processes. So first, let's confirm that the file has been created, and we look at the property. So this is just going to list the file. Okay, it's going to list this file with its property. That's what ls does. It just lists files. We want to list the properties of the file, and I've cleared the screen here, and then enter. Okay, sudo does so this is minus L, enter, and that's going to give us this. So if you copy this and it's not working, just change this. I think when I copied it here, it probably came with some formatting which was translated into something else. But just know that this is minus or negative L. This is an L, okay? So just retype this negative L, and it's going to give you this. So you can see this is the file permissions that you currently have, and these permissions are too open. So we are going to change the permissions for this to something more secure. So let's change the permission for the file, and we're going to change the permission using this. Just copy that and then paste it, enter, And now the permissions have been changed. Now let's run this command again, and on my keyboard, if I just press the up arrow, it's going to bring me to that command, and I can enter, and you can see the permissions have now been changed. You can see it's quite different from that, right? So that's the first thing. We've changed the permission. The next step is convert the created file to a swap file, and we're going to convert it using make swap. Okay, so this file has already been created, but it's still not a swap file. We just have the file created, and if we use this, we can use this to convert it to a swap file. So I'm just going to paste that in there, and you can see the swap space has been created. So this will convert that file into a swap area for us. Now that's not the end of it. We still need to enable it, and then after that we're going to register it inside of our FS tab. So enable the swap file. So at this point, let's just see if we do swap on S, if it's going to show us that we have a swap file, even though we haven't registered it on the system yet. So it's created, but we still need to add it here. But let's just see if at this point it's being recognized. And I'm going to do sudo and you can see that we have one. Okay, so at this point one has been created and it's being recognized. It's the type of a file, not a disk, and the size, and used 0. And now what we're going to do is we want to add it to FS tab. Now FS tab is a configuration file that loads or mounts partitions. So if you have partitions, they will all be mounted. They will be mounted using the configuration file FS tab. Okay, so that's what we need to do. We need to add it to this configuration file, and what you're going to add is this. So once we add this, our swap will be available for use on the web server. So copy, and we want to open this, and we're going to open using nano. You can use Vim as well. So if you see VI, that means you're opening it using Vim, but I suggest you use nano because it's pretty easy to use. We're going to open the configuration file. There we go. So at the end here, we are going to add this. Just scroll all the way down, come back here and copy this. Copy that. Just paste it in there. Once you do that, Control X and then Y to accept the changes, and then enter. So the swap file has been created. Now let's see about memory, if our swap file is being recognized among the memory. And you can see now we do have a swap file. Total 2047, that is MB. This is for 87 MB. And used 0 free 2047. So what will happen is you can see that we still have available memory. As soon as we install Vesta, you're going to see that Vesta will be consuming memory, and PHP modules and so much more will be consuming memory. And if your memory runs out, your system may crash. So to avoid that, we have added a swap file. So when the memory runs out here, what's going to happen is it's going to start consuming this memory in the swap file. So the goal of this video has been achieved. and the goal was to create a swap file. And we have created our swap file of 2 GB. Our RAM is pretty small, so a swap file is necessary if you are on a low VPS. Make sure you create a swap file. It doesn't matter which VPS you're using, as long as you have low memory, something like 1 GB, less than 2 GB, always create a swap file, okay? So that's it for this video. In this video, what we've done is we have created a swap file. So if you want to follow along with these steps and you don't want to type, then you can just come here and start copying these things and pasting them in there. Just come to bizanosa.com/VSS and you can open this and it will bring you here, and you can just follow along with the steps, and in the end you will have a swap file for your CentOS 7 server. So I will see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In the last video I showed you how to create a swap file for your web server. If you have any questions about the process, just let me know. So if you come to bizanosa.com/VSS, you can click on this and it will bring you here, and you can follow along and create your swap file. All right. So in this video, what you're going to do, let's finish setting up our web server. And what you're going to do is you're going to enable IP tables. And without any further ado, let's just get started. By default, you may find that you have firewall D already enabled inside of CentOS. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove it, to remove firewall D, because we want to install IP tables and we don't want to have two of them. I've been away for a while, so let me just restart the session. So I'll paste in that there so that you can remove firewall D. All right, that's removed, and I'll clear the screen again. Okay, so the next step, we want to install IP tables. We want to install it and then activate IP tables. So first of all, let's install IP tables. Paste in that there. And then now let's start it. If we restart the server, IP tables is not going to start automatically. So what we need to do is we need to enable it so that every time the server restarts, IP tables is going to restart automatically. So the next thing is we want to change some rules. And this is what it comes with by default, okay? And we want to change these rules. So you can view the current rules. You can see these are the rules that currently we have. So what we want to do is we want to save the rules. So these are runtime rules, meaning that when the server restarts, you're going to lose the rules. So what we need to do is we need to save them to a file. So just run this so that you can save this inside of these files, iptables.init. So the next step is we want to allow some traffic. We need to allow SSL, secure protocols. So we need to allow all this. We are going to edit the IP tables config file using this. So let's open this file inside of Nano, and then we're going to add this. Okay, so you can see we already have some of this allowed. We already have port 22 allowed. And let's see what we need to add here. So after this 22, we need to add the rule for port 80. This is a normal traffic, HTTP traffic. And then we need to add the rule for HTTPS. That's for 443. So we just need to copy these two. Just copy these two. And then after this, we add them. So if I come inside here, press enter, and then paste it in by just right clicking. So we have the port 80 and port 443 have been enabled inside of our web server, and this will allow traffic to go out and traffic to come in using these ports. So these are the ports that will allow your website to be accessible. I can just close this, Control X and then Y. Then we need to reload IP tables. So we are just going to do sudo systemctl reload IP tables. And once you're done with that, we will be done with this section about setting up the server, the CentOS server. All right, so that's pretty much it. This was the part that mostly dealt with the initial server setup on Vultr using CentOS 7. So the next part, what I'm going to do next is we are going to start working towards making sure that our web server can run our website. And the first thing we are going to do is we're going to install Vesta CP. The Vesta control panel is a free control panel that you can use to run your website. And one of the reasons why you should use something like a control panel if you don't want a lot of hassles is because it comes with the things that are necessary to run the website. It's going to come with a web server. It also has the email already set up. You can set up the email if you want to use the same server, which I'm going to do in this course. I'm going to use the same server for email, and you can also use it for DNS and all that. I'm going to do it in this one server. However, you may need to separate them. Okay, but right now I just want to show you how you can quickly set up your server and start running your websites. And this setup is going to work for you very easily. And by the end of this, you're going to be able to run as many websites as you want. So the next step is installing Vesta control panel. All right, so that's it for this video. If you have any questions about this initial server setup, if anything is not working for you, you can utilize Google and you'll always find a solution. There are so many solutions about CentOS. That's one of the good reasons why using CentOS is a good idea, because the community is pretty active. The number of people that have experienced the problems that you're already experiencing is pretty high, and so you will always find a solution. And even if you don't find a solution, you can always find someone to help you out. All right, so that's it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to install Vesta control panel on your web server.